7.
Okay, let me just check. This is right 8. This is 6. And this is 7. Right?
Yes.
So now I'm going to make my triangle using my rods, and you are making your triangle using your rods. And what we see is that these two triangles are looking the same.
Yes.
So for triangles, if I have the lengths same, the triangles are the same. But for a quadrilateral, it's not enough.
Because the base were put the same. For 8 centimeters is the base.
Okay, now you take your 5 centimeters and make a quadrilateral.
So you not clear.
Yes. They looking opposite to each other in the mirror image like.
Okay, let me make it different.
Sir, your sound is not clear.
Yeah. Become muted. Okay. Now, are these the same? They're not the same. Okay. So for a quadrilateral, having the same lengths will not give you a single quadrilateral. You can make many quadrilaterals with the same length by changing the angle. Okay. Now let's continue the discussion. Yes, you can move yours. So now take 4
Yes, sir.
line segments of length 6 centimeters. Take 4 line segments of length 6. This is one.
Same 7 also.
Let's make another.
This one line segment.
Okay, keep it here. Keep it here. So this is what I have made. And can we have the camera on what Arnav has made? I will keep mine next to what he has made. Are they the same?
No, this is a square and this is a rhombus.
Right,
So they are different.
right.
The rhombus has different angles, whereas 90 degrees right angles. Rhombus has acute here and obtuse like this.
Okay,
Even obtuse.
okay. What is the definition of a rhombus? What is a rhombus?
A rhombus is a quadrilateral of a shape of a kite.
What is the property of a rhombus?
Meaning all the length of all the sides is the same.
Right? If the length of all the sides is the same, then it is a.
Rhombus or a square.
So is a square a rhombus?
No,
Why?
the angles are different.
Or can we say that the square is a rhombus whose angle are 90? Can we say that?
Yes, yes, you can say because we can like change a rhombus into a square.
Correct. So a rhombus is where all the sides are equal. For a square, also all the sides are equal. So the square is a particular kind of rhombus, a rhombus whose angle is
Angle is right, square is right angle.
right angle. So
On the basis of side, it is same, but on the basis of angles, it is different.
it is different from.
On angles, in angles.
Yeah, a square is a particular kind of rhombus, right? A square is a rhombus which has angle 90 degrees. If it is not 90 degrees, also you can have a rhombus. But when the angle is 90 degrees, then it becomes a square. Okay, all right. Can we just have the slides again, please? So slide 9. This is what we did earlier. Slide 9. Okay, next slide. Yes, keep clicking. So now we have made using 4 sticks of 5 centimeters, we have made a square and we have made a rhombus. The next slide. So a quadrilateral having all 4 sides equal is called a rhombus, as we know. Next slide. We asked the question, is a square a rhombus? And we also discussed that. And we answered that yes, a rhombus is having all 4 angles at 90 degrees. Okay? A square. A square is a rhombus which has all 4 angles as 90 degrees. That is a square. Okay? All right. Now, can you make a rhombus with angle of 60 degrees using your rods? Can you make that angle 60 degrees? How do you know that is 60 degrees? I want it 60 degrees. So you have to measure using a. Okay, please do that.
So now it is measuring.
60 degrees. Okay. Can we have the slides again? Can we have the slides? No, keep it as it is. Next. No, just go to the next slide. Next. 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 Okay, just hold that. That is what Arnab has done. Arnab used a protractor and made a rhombus with an angle of 60 degrees. Okay. All right. Now, we are going to do the same thing. Instead of making a rhombus with sticks, we are now going to make a rhombus with a compass and a scale. Okay. Please go ahead, Arnab, and make a rhombus, any rhombus, with a compass and a scale. You want to use a protractor? Go ahead. Done? Okay. Let me see what you have done. You have made a rhombus. Show me your compass. Let me check that it is a rhombus. So it is this equal to slightly different here, slightly out here, slightly out here. Okay, so it is close to a rhombus, but a little bit. Now let us make a rhombus a little more accurately. Okay, so we'll keep sheet here. Yeah, keep that. So what is a rhombus? A rhombus is a take that as the base. Okay. Now let's take this point here and draw an arc. Okay. And then I want to take a point here. So let me draw any angle from here to here. We call this point A. Call this point here B. Call this point here C. So what do you know about AB and AC?
AB and C.
AB, segment AB and segment AC. What do you know about them?
They're equal
They are equal. Why?
because we drew the arc and the arc is cutting both this line. And once we draw an arc, it is going to be same.
Because they are the radii of the radius of the same circle, right? And the radius of the circle is the same everywhere. So that is why AB is the same as AC.
Yes.
Okay. Now you keep this as it is. And now take B as your center and draw
An arc.
a nice big arc on this side. Here. Draw. Okay. And take C as the center and draw an arc. And call this point here as D. Okay. Now join BD and CD with a scale. Okay. So now you know that AB is the same as AC.
Yes.
What about BD?
BD and CD both are same because we drew one arc from this point and from this point. And B and C, they means the distance is same here.
Right.
We haven't extended the compass.
We have not extended the compass. We have used the same compass.
Yes.
The same compass, when it is at A, it reaches up to B. And C. When it is at B, it reaches up to D. Okay, from C also it reaches up to D. So what can you say about AB, AC, BD, and CD?
It is a rhombus.
It is a rhombus. Why?
Because all the sides now they are the same.
They are all the same. So we have constructed a rhombus now using only a compass and a scale. Okay. All right. Now let us cut the rhombus out. Okay, so I'm going to cut out the rhombus. All right. Okay. So now let me call this angle here as A. Let me call this here as angle A. This here is angle B. This here is angle C. This here is angle D. Okay. And I want you now to divide the angle A into two equal parts. How can you do it? No, I want to divide this angle here, into two equal parts. Okay. Very good. So you have folded it now into two equal parts, right?
Yes.
So now this angle on top is equal to the angle down, right?
Yes.
So when I fold it, what is this line? What is this line here? This line is AB.
AB.
This line is AC. AD,
Yes.
right? What is this line called? The line AD is called the diagonal.
Diagonal.
Diagonal. This is called the diagonal of the rhombus. So there are two diagonals. There is this diagonal, and then there is this diagonal. Okay. So when I fold like this, I get diagonal. Okay. Now, what Arnav has done by paper folding, he has divided an angle into two equal parts. Which angle? The angle A. The angle A he has divided into two equal parts. That is known as bisecting the angle. Now I'm going to bisect the angle here using only sticks. But I'm going to learn from what Arnav has done. Arnav has done it by paper folding. I'm going to do it by using sticks. Let's see how I do it, okay?
Yes.
So let me first make a rhombus here. Again, I'll keep a piece of paper. And all these sticks are of the same length. So when I put them together, I will get a rhombus. Let me call the rhombus, let me call this angle here as A. this angle here as B, this here as C, and this as D. And I want to divide the angle CAB into two equal parts. I want to bisect the angle CAB. Now I know that when Arnav bisected his angle, he did it by folding along the diagonal. So what I am going to do, I am just going to draw the diagonal. I'm going to keep this rod along AD. That's the diagonal. So the line AD bisects the angle CAB into two equal parts. Okay. So that is what we have done. Now let's go back to the slide projector and go back to the slides and see what we have been doing. Arnav has been doing it in one way. I have been doing it in another way. Let's see what the slide presentation tells us. Okay. So we draw a rhombus. Slide number 16. Label it as ABCD. Okay. Now, next slide. Yes. What can we say about its size? Just hold this slide. That's what we discussed earlier. All the sides are congruent. What can we say about its opposite angles? We can measure and see that the opposite angles are also congruent to each other. And the adjacent angles, that is not something that we have verified, but you can measure the angles and see that the adjacent angles, that is the angle at A and the angle at B, that adds up to 180 degrees. Next slide. Yeah. The second line there is an error there. It should read fold the rhombus on line BD, not AB. It should be BD. What happens to the angle? Or rather, instead of AB, we can have AC. AC, not AB, AC. What happens to the angle A when we fold it like this along AC? We get two same angles. Hence, AC is known as the angle bisector of A. Okay? Not AB here. Here, AC is the angle bisector of the angle A. Now, let's continue. Let's take the same angle which we made out of paper, and now let us fold along the other diagonal. Okay, Arnav, you are folded along this diagonal, along AD. Now fold it along BC. Exactly, yeah. Keep mark. Right. Done? Okay, open it up. Now use a scale and draw AD and draw BC along the folds. Carefully draw AD and BC along the folds. Okay. Now, okay. Now you folded it like this first, and like this also. Okay. So what is this angle here? This angle here.
This is an acute.
Is it acute? Look at it carefully.
No, it's a right angle. It's a right angle.
It's a right angle. Okay. So this is a right angle. All right. Now I open it up. This part and this part, how are they related?
So
This length here and this length. How are they related?
the angle,
So this length here and this length here. How are they related?
they are exactly in the diagonal.
No, this length here, is it more than this length?
No, it is the same.
It is the same. So they are exactly
Half.
half of this whole length,
Yes, half of it.
right? And this length here, what about that? What can you say?
There are two halves,
They are two halves of which length?
A and B. A and B.
Right. So this center point divides AD into
Two halves.
two halves and divides CB into
Two halves.
two halves. So this point here, we can call it the middle point,
Center.
the center, the midpoint. Okay. And these angles here, let me call this point here as, this is A, B, C, D. Let me call this point here as E. Okay.
E is the center.
E is the
Center.
center. And the angle CED is?
CED is the right angle.
Okay.
Right.
Which are the other right angles?
So BED and AEC and AEB.
AEB. They're all?
Right angle.
Yeah. And E is the midpoint of BC and E is the midpoint of AD. So how much we have learned by folding a rhombus? Okay. So this rhombus that Arnav has made, by folding it, we have learned many things. We have learned that AD, the diagonal AD bisects the angle A. If we draw the diagonal AD and we draw the diagonal DC, we have learned that these two diagonals meet at a point E, and E is the midpoint of AD. E is also the midpoint of DC. So we have bisected AD and we have bisected DC. Bisected means divided into two equal parts. So we have learned how to bisect an angle. We have learned how to bisect lines. Not only that, but we have learned something more, that when we draw a rhombus, the two diagonals bisect each other, but not just that, they bisect each other at right angles. So AE is the perpendicular bisector of BC. AE is the perpendicular bisector of BC. And DE is the perpendicular bisector of DE is the perpendicular bisector of
A and D.
AD, right? So BE is the perpendicular bisector of AD, and DE is the perpendicular bisector of BC. So let's now go back to our presentation. Go to slide number 19. Properties of a rhombus, diagonal. We draw the diagonals AC and BD What we have done may be a little bit different here because we have given the names a little differently. When we fold the rhombus, so we get the angle bisector of the angle A, as we saw earlier. Next slide. Now fold the paper once more to get 4 equal quarters. Open all the folds and observe. What do we observe at the intersection point of AC and BD? AC and BD are intersecting each other in a right angle. They are bisecting each other also. From all this discussion, we can say that both the diagonals are perpendicular bisectors of each other. Now, let me repeat here what we have done by paper folding. Let me repeat it by placing sticks. So here I have drawn one diagonal, AD. I'm going to draw the other diagonal, BC. So when I make a rhombus ABDC, when I draw the diagonal AD, that bisects the angle at A. Okay. Secondly, let me call this point here as E. Let me call this point of intersection as E. So we know that AD bisects BC at the point E. We know that BC bisects AD at the point E. And moreover, we know that each of these angles here at E, this one, this one, this one, and this one, each of these 4 angles is 90 degrees, is a right angle. So what we observe is that we have drawn the perpendicular bisectors of the diagonals of a rhombus. And if we know how to make a rhombus, we know how to do many things. We know how to bisect angles, we know how to bisect line segments, we know how to draw perpendicular bisectors, we know how to draw a perpendicular from one line to another. All these things are all there in this exercise on the rhombus. So now let us continue with the slide projector. Go to slide 20. And there's another way of also doing perpendicular bisectors, that is by measuring with a scale, then half the length, find the midpoint. But we don't need to do that now because we have so many different ways. We can do it by paper folding, we can do it with a compass and a scale. So this way, by actually measuring and using a protractor, we can also do it that way. You can do that as homework. Next slide, 22. Method 2, using a compass, we create a rhombus with the segment as one diagonal and draw its other diagonal. Slide number 23. So that's what we did. Okay, let's do that exercise now on the piece of paper. I think we are reaching towards the end of our time. So I'll just do this myself. Very quickly, I'll do it myself so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I will quickly do that exercise here, and you can repeat it for homework. So what I'm doing now is I take a sheet of paper, and I want to bisect a line segment. This is the line segment AB I will call it AD instead of AB. You will understand why I'm calling it AD. Using a compass, I'm going to draw a rhombus so that AD is the diagonal of that rhombus. Okay, so I do it, doesn't matter what I do. I draw one arc on this side, another arc on this side, from taking A as the center, and I take D as the center. I don't change the distance. I draw an arc on this side cutting, another arc on this side cutting. And let me call these points as B and C. And now I join A to B. I join B to D. I join A to C. I join D to C. As you know, ABDC is a rhombus. We saw that earlier. And AD is now a diagonal. When you're actually bisecting a line, you don't have to draw all these four sides of the rhombus. I'm just drawing it now to make it clear that what we are doing is creating a rhombus. But when you do it in school, you don't need to draw the sides of the rhombus. This is just to make things clear. Now, AD is one diagonal of the rhombus. I draw the other diagonal. And Arnab, can you put the camera on Arnab? I have drawn the other diagonal. So what have I drawn? And the other diagonal is what? Say it a little louder so that everybody can hear it.
The perpendicular bisector.
Yeah.
So we drew a perpendicular line in the first we joined on the sides by creating the arc, and then we drew a straight line from this point to the another one point to make it into a half.
Right. Okay, very good. Right, so here we have drawn the perpendicular bisector by using the rhombus property. Okay, so now let's go through the last few slides quickly. And now we are at slide 23. Go to slide 24. Angle bisector, by the same method, we draw the diagonal of the rhombus. Slide number 25. Use a compass and create a rhombus with one angle equal to the given angle, then draw the diagonal. Okay. Slide number 26. 26. Next. Okay, hold that, hold that. So that's how we drew the diagonal of the rhombus and we bisected the angle. Okay. So now, next slide. Okay, the homework is mentioned there. It says use paper folding, cutting and drawing to find the properties about sides, angles and diagonals of the rectangle, of the square, of the parallelogram and of the kite. So please take a screenshot of this. Let me add something which is not on the slide. Please listen carefully. Those of you who are in CBSE using the NCERT textbook, please read chapter 14. Chapter 14 is about what we have done today. And those who are in Maharashtra State Board, please read chapter 17 on constructions. Chapter 17 is what we have done today. In one day, we have completed both these chapters, chapter 14 and chapter 17. And as we can see, it all comes, if we know how to draw line segments, if we know how to draw circles, if you know how to draw angles, then we can do things like bisecting angles. We can do things like drawing perpendicular bisectors. We can do many things. Next slide. So please note the two sites, EBCDMath, Janganit, and everybody can do math. What we have done today will also be available on the YouTube channel and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, maybe a little later because we are still sorting out the technical problems, but we will make all these available on all these platforms. And please get back to us with your questions. I'm sure that many of you have questions about what we have done today. We are still improving the platform, and we would like to improve it so that we can take these questions online. Maybe next time we will be able to do that. But any questions that you have, please write to us. Please send us an email. Secondly, any suggestions that you want to make, especially the teachers amongst the participants, if there are some suggestions that you want to make, please make those suggestions because we want to improve with your suggestions. The objective of this program is that every participant should understand everything that we have done in the session, in every session. I will not ask you whether you have enjoyed this session, but I will ask you whether you have understood everything that we have done in this session. So please get back with your feedback whether or not you have understood everything. If you have not understood something, please write to us and tell us that this is the point that I have not understood. But I know that if you have understood everything, then you have certainly enjoyed what we have done, because there is a lot of enjoyment in understanding. And we are going to ensure, or try to ensure, that all the concepts will be done by doing and understanding. And if you are understanding, also, I'm quite confident that you will be enjoying it. So please get back with your comments, with your questions, and we will meet again 1 week from now, most likely on the 19th of September. Thank you. Till we meet again.